Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is neither thought out nor a program.
He sounds like Pierce Brosnan.
This is called The Boy Who Cried Wolf, a cautionary tale on the dangers of storytelling. Yesterday morning I was playing in the Bay Area Discovery Museum with Sam, my son, and a wolf. Not a real wolf, mine, just a glove puppet. Though he was pretty realistic with a bushy tail, glass eyes, and a fanged mouth that I could manipulate with my hand. Not terrifying, but not to be taken lightly all the same. The wolf looked like he could do some serious devouring if ever he got the chance. "Watch out," I said to Sam. "He's hungry." We were in the play area, a few mums sitting around with their backs to the wall, or their shoes safely stowed in the wooden rack by the door. A dozen kids were running around, navigating tunnels or shoving shapes through the wrong holes in a plastic counter. Fitzsimmons, my wife, had taken the precaution of lifting Sam out of one area after one boisterous little boy had knocked him over, and without saying sorry either. "What a little shit." It wasn't the bulldozing that got to her, more the utter lack of remorse. Barbarians in the Discovery Museum. Whatever would we stumble on next? So we sat quietly in a sheltered enclave in one corner of the room, amid a furry little clump of puppets, which she'd selected for its total lack of danger. Or so she thought. "This wolf hasn't eaten for days," I said quietly to Sam, noting two girls approaching on my right with a glint in their eyes. Sam had one hand on the wall, not yet committing to the wolf encounter, but I could sense a ready audience on the other side. "The only thing he eats are the feet of small children." The two girls stepped both backwards and forwards. They might have passed for twins, with the same kind of curly black hair that Sam usually considers another type of furniture and clutches to pull himself up. I looked across at them and they glanced at me, then at the wolf. They were grinning in anticipation, but also keeping their distance. I raised the wolf's nose to sniff the air and turned him toward the two intruders wearing pink. I swore I saw a strand of drool leave his mouth. "He can smell your feet," I said. "Be careful." The curly-haired girls inched closer to the wolf, one partly behind the other, both peeking at the floor intermittently to check that their feet weren't sneaking ahead of them. Their mother poked her head around the corner of the little enclave, looked at me, looked at the two delighted girls, then left them to it. I waited till she'd gone, then made a chewing sound and ground the wolf's teeth horribly. At the end of last year, Fitzsimmons and I had taken Sam to the Morris Sendak exhibition at the Contemporary Jewish Museum. Sendak, we learned, based the characters of the Wild Things on his East European relatives, large, ugly creatures who would come around to his house and pinch his cheeks. His mother's cooking was not so good, he said, so he was always afraid that the hungry relatives would eat him instead. These memories still colour his work, giving it both a comforting and a frightening edge. Later I thought about this as we drove home from the Discovery Museum and remembered the recent film adaptation of Where the Wild Things Are, which some parents attacked for being too scary. Sendak himself reacted angrily to this, telling them to go to hell. Back in the wolf's den, I wasn't exactly sure where to go next. Hell didn't seem like a likely option, but I was acutely aware of raising expectations of ravening wolves. The wolf himself turned slightly toward the two girls and growled imperceptibly. Fitzsimmons had appeared behind Sam and was now keeping a wary eye on both of us. Our boy wasn't in any danger, having moved to the left wall where he now watched the proceedings with the same wariness of his mother. It was lunchtime, time to feed Sam the rice cake and avocado we prepared earlier. We were all hungry. The only question was who would feast. One of the girls was already holding a massive bumblebee in front of her belly, possibly to appease the wolf's appetite. While she proffered it gingerly, the other girl picked up a furry raccoon. The wolf's hackles rose, and his upper lip curled back to reveal gleaming teeth. The wolf needed closure. It needed to feed. Equally, however, there was no other way it was going to pounce on these two girls. One curly-haired squawk would bring their mum running. As Fitzsimmons stepped toward me, I sensed an exit. "Arr!" howled the wolf as he fell upon Fitzsimmons' feet and began to devour her toes. But before he could sate his appetite, the two little girls pounced. Bumblebee and Raccoon attacked the wolf together, yelling, "Off and get him!" The wolf withdrew, taken aback, but the girls were relentless, pounding his snout with the the black and yellow bee and then starting to trample on him. Seeing that my arm was trapped under the pummeling, Fitzsimmons looked at me, half amused, half horrified, then started to laugh. As this primordial assault intensified, all civilization fell away. Forgotten were the foam building blocks of the art studio, the jointed plastic limbs of the Build an Ant exhibit, the wonderful wicker work beyond the Golden Gate Bridge model outside. This wasn't a discovery museum, it was a destruction museum. This was a reversion to nature, red in tooth and claw, an overturning of the Darwinian order by a bumblebee and a raccoon. In a fleeting moment of calm, I slipped my arm out of the wolf and lay back against the padded wall of the alcove. Fitzsimmons picked up Sam, as though to leave, shooting me a parting look. I knew what that look meant. Her eyebrows were framed apologetically, but the expression said, "I told you they were monsters." And as I crawled to the wooden rack to pull on shoes with bruised fingers, the two little wild things with the charming curls skipped away to join their mother by the watercourse outside, where they would put on aprons and sneakers and learn about fish and frogs. Thank you.
Yeah.